Hello, eighth graders. Today we are going to talk about the phases of the moon, and we will be continuing our study of the phases of the moon into next week when we have an opportunity to be together in class. And there's a couple things that we'll be doing online and then also in the classroom. So today is more of an introduction. I'm going to go through chapter 4 here. It starts out by saying, like everything else in the solar system except the sun, the moon does not produce any light of its own. Okay, so the planets don't give off any light. The moon doesn't give off any light of its own. It is very bright, right? Like even, in the winter time when there's a full moon, especially when there's snow on the ground to reflect that light, it's really, really bright outside. But all of that light that the moon reflects is just a reflection of the sun, right? The sun is hitting the moon and it makes it bright. Again, it's not giving off any light of its own. As the moon moves around the Earth, different positions of the satellite meaning the moon, satellite is anything that revolves around something else. So different portions of the moon are illuminated. This causes the phases of the moon. So our view of the moon goes from fully lit to completely dark and back again. And it is a constant cycle of the moonlit portion of the moon growing into a full moon and then turning off again into what we call a new moon. All right. So if you look down here, this is kind of how I teach it. We always start at new moon and then we end at new moon in order to make the full cycle. Now the phases of the moon are a cycle, just like the water cycle, just like the carbon cycle. There isn't really a beginning or an end. It's just a continuation that goes, and it takes about a month for this to happen. Now it's not exactly a month, and our months are all different number of days. And so there are times where from new moon, we don't have a new moon on the first of the month is what I'm saying. Maybe we'll start at a full moon. And then towards the end of the month, we're going to get back to another full moon. And sometimes because of how our modern day calendar is set up, sometimes we have more than one full moon within a month period. All right. So again, for our purposes, we'll start out with a new moon. And at the new moon phase, we can't see any of the moon. Those are those really, really dark nights. They're really great for stargazing. We really luck out when there's a new moon, if there's like a meteor shower or something, because it's not creating light pollution for us, right? We can see the night sky very well when there's a new moon. And then the light starts to turn on from the right. Okay, light always comes from the right. Okay, so if you look up at the moon and you see a sliver and the light is on the right-hand side, you know it is in the phase where it is going to keep increasing. Okay, so you see a little sliver, the light's on the right, you know in the next few days that lit portion is going to grow and grow and grow over the next few weeks, little by little, until we have a full moon. Once we have a full moon, you'll know that the light will turn off from the right. Okay, so you can see that the light is shutting off on the right and it continues to move until we just have this little crescent moon again. Okay, in these phases right here, when it's going from dark to full, when the light is increasing, those are known as the waxing phases. Okay. These phases here, where it's going from full to new, or the light is turning off, those are known as the waning phases. Okay, so I've made a little picture for you. Let's see if we can show you this. Okay, so you see here that the light moves from the right to the left. And I've just defined a couple things here. Waxing means the sunlight portion is getting bigger. And waning means the sunlight portion is getting smaller. Okay, so we start out at a new moon, and little by little, the light will start turning on the right-hand side. And when it grows to half of the disk being illuminated, a lot of people think of that as a half moon, but that's not really accurate because the moon is a sphere, right? And so really all you're seeing is 1/4 of the moon. And so we call that a first quarter. Some people might refer to that as a waxing quarter, and I would accept that too. So the first quarter, or a waxing quarter, because it's in the waxing phase of increasing light. Either of those terms is right, but not a half moon. Then we get to what's called a waxing gibbous. A waxing gibbous is greater than a quarter, but it's not quite full. Okay, so it's kind of the opposite of a crescent. You know, you've got this big area right here that's illuminated on the right-hand side, but there's still a little part on the left-hand side that's dark. That's a waxing gibbous. And then we'll have a full moon. And then again, the same process continues from the right. The dark comes from the right and turns the light off. So a waning gibbous, these are all the waning phases when the light goes off. A waning gibbous. Then we have our third quarter, okay? You could call this a waning quarter as well. A waning crescent, and then back to a new moon. Again, this whole thing lasts about a month. And if you look at a star chart or some sort of a calendar, they'll give you an exact day for a new moon. They'll give you an exact day for a quarter moon. They'll give you an exact day for a full moon, another exact day for the quarter moon, and another exact day for the new moon. And this part right here, from new moon to first quarter, that lasts about a week. So all of the days in between a completely dark moon and the day that it actually turns into a first quarter, all of those days are known as waxing crescent. So at first you see this tiny little sliver, and then that sliver grows and it grows and it grows. All of those days are waxing crescent days. All right, and then there's one date specifically where it's exactly a quarter. And then for another week, this process continues, and all of those days are a waxing gibbous. And then we've got a full moon, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little animation of this happening. All right, so if I go here, we've got the sun over here. Okay, so the sun doesn't move. The sun is in the center of our solar system. Here's Earth. And yeah, we are revolving around the sun at the same time, but our position to the moon doesn't change. This whole shebang moves with as we revolve around the sun. Okay, so we're just going to keep the sun in the same position here, and I'll start the animation. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit here. Okay, so you can see over here, this is the waxing crescent phase, and that lasts for some days, like almost a week. And then right when this is about a straight line, it's going to turn into a first quarter. Okay, and that lasts for about another week. And then we get to the waxing gibbous, where it's almost full but not quite. And then once the moon is all the way over on the opposite side from the sun, we have our full moon. Okay, and then the process continues. The dark starts from the right-hand side. This is our waning gibbous phase, until this dark line is halfway down. If the light is on the left, it's in the waning phases, right? If the light's on the left, it's waning. Okay, so here's our third quarter, and then for the last week of the month, we are in our waning crescent phases. And the waning crescent goes from, you know, there's a lot of different stages of that until the moon gets completely dark again. Okay, we are going to be practicing this in a hands-on way in class. I'll show you a video of what we're doing in class in case you are distance learning still, and we'll do a lot more practicing with this. The phases of the moon are something that state of Minnesota wants you to know. Okay, so the easiest way to do that, we'll continue to study this, but look outside. It's not going to be clear tonight. We've got kind of a icky, slushy snowstorm going on right now. But throughout the next week or so, look outside at the moon. Determine if the light is on the right or on the left of the moon. And in knowing that, then you can determine whether the moon phase is in this increasing spot, like is the moon almost going to be full, or is the moon in the stage where it's turning the light off and going towards a new moon. All right, so that's all you got today. We'll be talking about this more on Tuesday when I see you. There is a little video here with a question that I would like for you to answer. And that is that for today. All right, I'll talk to you soon.